kids, Mr. Fly here, hope you're well. Now welcome back to the man cave for what I'm now going to be calling Kit Corner, because by popular demand this is going to be the next video in the reviews of the kit that I use, in particular through winter as it's pretty cold outside. Now today what I want to focus on are heated gloves, in particular these. These are the Weise Montana gloves. I've been using these for this season, couple of months. Stick around, stay tuned, I'll tell you what I think of them. So I've been a fan of heated gloves for quite some time, and in the past, up until this season, I've used gloves that are connected to the bike. I've got wires that go to the battery, and I'd thread a wire through my jacket, plug the gloves in, plug it into the bike, and then in theory I'd have warm hands. That was all very well because of course you get the power from the bike, nice and easy. The problem is they used to come unplugged while I was riding along, and you wouldn't notice of course until the gloves had cooled down and your hands start to get cold, so absolutely no good at all. And then when you're riding on a motorway or something, trying to plug them back in again, just ain't going to happen, so you have to find somewhere to stop. So all in all, I didn't find the gloves that you connected to the bike to be a great solution. So this year, I decided to go for the cordless version and get some of these. These are the Weise Montana heated gloves, and these are battery powered. So these have got all the advantages of heated gloves, and they obviously keep your hands nice and toasty and warm when you're in really cold temperatures around the sort of 0 degrees type mark. But you don't have all that hassle of threading things through your jacket and so on, and becoming disconnected without realising. So let's take a closer look at these. So here they are then, these are the Weise Montanas. They're a hefty old pair of gloves. They feel pretty solid when you've got them on, like they're doing a good job of protecting you. So some of the features then, first of all, you've got these hard knuckle protectors, which I always like in case you come off, of course. It's got double stitching, it's got leather reinforced panels where you need them. It's got these sort of grippy, suede bits on the fingertips, which are quite handy. Stops you slipping it, and similarly you've got this suede type effect here, so on your twist grip and so on, you're not going to slip around at all. It's got this rather handy adjuster that obviously you tighten it up to hold it onto. It's got these stretchy panels here so that the thing flexes and moves with your hand. And then what I also quite like, it's got this sort of, I think they call this a storm cuff. So when you put it on over your jacket, you can tighten that up and it stops any wind or rain getting up the sleeve. It's also got the stretchy panels here on the backs of the fingers, so you can move relatively freely with them on. And these parts here are actually, I think that's called Scotch-Light, the reflective stuff that shows up in headlights, and as is the Weise wording as well. So you've got a bit of extra visibility as well, and this piping here is also in Scotch-Light. In terms of the construction, inside you've got like a fleecy liner to keep you warm. I think that's called Thinsulate, which is the stuff that they make fleeces out of. And then it's got some waterproof material in there. It's called, Weise call it Hipora, and it's one of these clever high-tech type technical fabrics that not only keeps the gloves waterproof, but also means it's breathable. So if your hands get hot and sweaty inside them, the sweat is wicked away, and it doesn't mean the inside of the gloves get wet. So that's kind of the construction of them. Pretty solid, quality bit of kit. So much for that. How about the power? Okay, powering these then, as I mentioned, they've got an internal battery, and that actually lives inside a little pouch inside here. I don't know if you can see, possibly not, but inside there's a little Velcro flap and a pouch, and inside is a lithium-ion battery. Now, according to Weise, the batteries will last for 6 hours if you've got it on the low power setting, and 3 hours on the high power setting. And basically, to turn them on and off, this at the back here is actually a button. So if you hold it, you'll see, if you just hold it down for 6 seconds or 3 seconds, that's now the high power setting. You hold it down again for a couple of seconds, and there we go, it goes to the low power setting, which should last for, as I say, 6 hours in use, and then hold it again, and it'll turn off with a little flash. There we go, gone. They warm up pretty quickly. I'd say maybe a minute and a half to full temperature. I think on full power they reach 65 degrees, and it's 40 degrees I think on low power. I find the low power setting ample for most things. In terms of the battery in there, so obviously it does add a little bit of bulk because it lives there in the cuff, but it's nothing too terrible, and you really don't notice it once you've had them on for a bit. In terms of charging them up, what you do is you undo the little Velcro flap, and then you can pull out this lead here. Now normally that's plugged into the battery, obviously, to keep the glove running, but when you want to charge it, you just pull that out like that, reveals a socket and a plug. Then you take the charger, which I've got plugged in over here, and then you just plug it in, and then bingo, if you have it switched on, there we go, you can see the one that I've got plugged in there. I don't know if you just saw that glow red. This is actually already basically charged. When it's fully charged, it will go to green from the red. And of course you can do both at one time. There you go, it's fully charged again there. It's on the edges, as I say, of full charge. Okay, so that's all very well and good. Of course, do they work? As you can imagine, I've been out in some pretty chilly weather testing these over the last few weeks. So out and about on the CRF on a particularly cold day, it's -2, believe it or not. but my hands are as toasty as you like. I've got the Weise gloves turned up to full power, and they're keeping the backs of my hands in particular lovely and toasty, and I've got heated grips on as well, so my palms are nice and warm as well, so I could ride all day long in -2 and my hands would not be cold, which is absolutely key on a motorcycle, because once your hands get cold, number one, it's miserable, it makes you feel grim, but also you lose dexterity in the fingers and it becomes hard to control the motorcycle, and that's when it becomes dangerous. So quite apart from the comfort angle, I just think they're a great safety factor. And just as much as I love heated grips, in conditions like this where it's really extreme, you can't beat the combination of heated gloves, heated grips and handguards to keep your hands nice and warm. So quite apart from the heating qualities of these Weise gloves, they're excellent gloves in that although they're very, very thick to keep you warm with the triple layer technology, they actually, you know, you can move your hands around nicely in them, and accessing the controls of the bike is absolutely fine. And even fine control, like turning my GoPro camera on and off where the buttons are quite fiddly, don't have a problem in these gloves, so they really work well from a sort of usability point of view. They also feel very robust, you know, right or wrongly. If I came off, it feels like my hands aren't going to come to any danger. So here's another kind of use case test for the heated gloves. Got them on full power again. Another day, obviously, lovely day, but it's about 1 degree out, and I'm on the Street Triple, which, unlike the little CRF that you just saw me on, doesn't have heated grips. So the only warmth I've got on my hands is that provided by the Weise gloves, and they're doing an admirable job, I have to say. I wouldn't be able to ride this bike in these sort of temperatures without some serious help. And I do have winter gloves that I wear, but even with those, after about half an hour riding, my hands are absolutely freezing, whereas these are keeping, in particular, the backs of my hands, because there isn't a heating element in the front, it's keeping the backs of them here absolutely toasty. Very nice indeed. I'm trying to work out whether the tips of my fingers are being warmed by them. I think they are. They're certainly not cold anyway, because of course when you're gripping the handlebars, it can move the tips of your fingers away from the heating elements on the back, so it might actually work out a warmer strategy to be in the sort of ready position, my hands like that on the controls maybe. Anyway, it looks like I need to go and get some petrol. So yeah, in these very cold riding conditions, on a bike like this with no heated grips, that's when these gloves really come into their own. It just keeps the bike rideable through winter. So, having used these for a little while then, what are the pros and cons of them? Well, if I start with the downsides, a bit like with the wired-in gloves, you had to wire them in and then you had all the hassle of being tethered to the bike. With these, of course, you have to remember to charge them. They take about 3 hours to charge to full charge, and as I say, on the low power setting, you'll get 6 hours out of them. But, you know, if you're using them on a commute all week, you've got to remember to charge them pretty much every other night, depending on the length of your commute, of course. So that's the first thing. Can't really get around that. I made a note of some of the pros and cons that I've noticed over the last few weeks, so just make sure I don't miss any. So if I refer to my notes, so that's the first thing as a downside. The other thing is you can't actually get them inside your jacket when you've got them on, because they are physically quite big gloves. They have to go on the outside of your jacket. At least they do on the jackets that I wear. And I usually like to have the gloves inside, so that's a bit of a disadvantage. The other thing is they're a little bit, when you first get them, they're a little bit stiff. And I thought when I first got them on, am I going to have enough dexterity moving those fingers to use the clutch and the the button on my GoPro and so on? But actually they soften up with use, so that's not too bad. So stiffness isn't really a problem. And then the other thing that I found in use is I think the heating elements probably concentrate more on the back of the fingers, and when you've got your fingers gripped on the grips, I think it may bring the back of my finger away from that element, if you see what I mean. So the tips of your fingers can suffer a little bit, not in any terrible way, but I think the heating element could have been a bit better in the fingertips. But again, a minor point. It's not really something I really had to think of negatives to come up with that list. On the plus side, loads of these, well, of course, they're very, very warm. They're made of really thick materials, as I talked about. So even when they're switched off, That thin sellotape material just keeps your hands nice and warm. And also they feel very robust and solid. You know, if you have unfortunate enough to have an off, I think you're going to be all right in those. They are fully waterproof as well. I've actually plunged my hand in water and they've been dry inside, so that's great. I love the idea of the sweat wicking material inside them as well, so if your hands do get too hot, they don't get all clammy. These high-tech fabrics these days are amazing. They're comfortable to wear. They feel like they're going to protect you. They're very warm even when they're excuse me, even when they're not powered. They heat up pretty quickly, and I think compared to the gloves that you know, you plug into the bike, these are just much more usable in the real world, or certainly that's what I've found. So I kind of like them a lot. There really is no excuse to have cold hands on a bike. So there we have it. That's the Weise Montana Element heated gloves. I really like them. They really come into their own, as I mentioned, when you're on a bike that doesn't have heated grips. So I use them quite a lot on the street triple if it's a particularly cold day. As I say, anything under about, well, anything under about 6 degrees, I resort to the heated gloves. Anything above that, you can get away with normal winter gloves. And also they're great on bikes that you just don't want to fit heated grips to. So for example, the Panigale, I don't tend to ride it in cold weather, but sometimes you just have to ride the bike, and if that's the case, then I'm not going to put heated grips on the Panigale, but I'll wear these no problem at all. In terms of cost, I've said before, you tend to get what you pay for with kit. These from Sports Bike Shop are $181.99. Buy them where you want. I've no affiliation with Sports Bike Shop, but I tend to buy my kit from there because they have very good service. So $181.99, so quite expensive, but I think actually quite a good value for money, given that they do keep your hands nice and toasty. Okay, so that's it for my glove review. I hope that's been of some interest to you, and look forward to speaking to you next time. Until then, this has been the Missenden Flyer. Cheerio.